Hello, welcome to Insight Live, the IT Experts Take. I'm Mike Moore from our Solutions Portfolio team, and also your host for today as we talk about top use cases for retail and edge AI. So joining me in that discussion, we are fortunate enough today to have two of our very own experts in the around the industry of retail, but also helping clients with transformation, not only AI and edge strategies, but IT transformation holistically. So we've got Mr. Eric Rewerts, one of our regional sales directors based out of the West. Good morning. Good afternoon, Eric. How are you doing today? Good. And we also have Brandon Elliott, one of our solutions executives based out of Central. Good morning, Brandon. How are you?
Brandon, you're on mute.
Oh, you're on mute, Brandon, but that's all right. That's why we're here. We're here for So both of these gentlemen either support clients directly or have teams that support clients in the retail space. We're out there having conversations on a daily basis, talking AI. It seems to be like it's on the tip of everybody's tongue. As you've probably seen some of the past Insight Lives that we've done, AI is really hyped up right now. So we're here to talk about some of the top use cases, expectations versus reality, where we're actually helping clients today to bring some of that, the use cases to life, and really just kind of go back and forth and see where this conversation leads. So glad to have you guys today. Little public service announcement for those joining live. Due to the platform that we're using today, we have the availability to see your thoughts or comments, let us know how we're doing. We also can take any questions that you have and keep this interactive. So would love to answer any burning questions you have around your edge and AI strategies or IT transformation holistically. We've got a good panel here. So with that, let's just dive right in and maybe start talking about some of those top use cases. So Eric, maybe I'll come to you. What are you seeing out there? What are our clients asking for from a use case perspective?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Really a lot of them. So a couple of weeks ago, I was actually up at NVIDIA's headquarters. We were doing a client briefing, and we had about 20 of our clients up there, and executive level clients. And there were about half of them were in the retail space. So like very much like a brick and mortar customer coming in some level, whether it was like traditional retail, restaurant, or like we even had a couple clients from the, I don't know if this is a vertical, but like from the gym space, like gyms and what even you call it that. But, it's really interesting because a lot of our retail clients, the great thing about AI is that it really accelerates. It can accelerate process. It can accelerate experience. But when you start to think about where as you start to almost Shark Tank the ideas, there you can get a lot of ideas really quickly. And so a lot of our clients, and I have Brandon seeing this too, is you've got a ton of use case opportunity and potential. So a lot of clients were talking about this, like not really specifically identifying a specific use case, but that I've got, quote unquote, 100 use cases that I could use leveraging AI or Gen AI or some form of AI to go help our customers become more engaged, have a better experience with our product, or help our employees better engage with our customers. So, and their challenge right now, honestly, is like, how do we get to the best ROI? Because every board that's out there is putting pressure on IT and the business to say, what are we doing? Everyone wants to have a story, right? They want to have the Inc.com article or the Forbes.com article that says, here's what we're doing around AI. And so the biggest challenge we're seeing in the marketplace right now is getting to that use case that we feel could drive the quickest, but also the most impactful return on investment. And so we're seeing a lot of that right now. And so we're seeing a lot of that type of discussion, how we get to, I don't know, Brandon, that's kind of similar to what you're seeing too?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned ROI, right? I think people have been playing around with AI for a while, at least a lot of the bigger players. And it's been a pretty expensive data-driven experiment for a lot of people. And for those that aren't experimenting, you should, by the way, because that's your competition will be, I promise. At the end of the day, there's probably 6 major buckets that are tied to retail ROI that I'm seeing out with our customers right now. And that's really driving this adoption of an AI-based approach. So typically, you're seeing the operations side. being a pretty major focused area. We've been talking about it for a decade plus around customer 360 and customer experience, but now the platforms, the capability, the data is there to, I think, really start to measure and deliver on that. So from an operations perspective, really around your labor optimization, that's probably number one, right? What can you control? Rent and labor? Well, hey, technology will help you optimize your labor, and that sometimes can be based in the form of real-time store operations. Once you have telemetry being generated, whether it's a camera or a system, right, of that you're trying to measure, you can start to take action on that. So kind of a connected platform for that. In fact, I'm actually seeing quite a few companies look at a managed endpoint project where they're kind of getting out of the hardware, software, staging, deployment, and service and maintenance, where they want to have a partner like an Insight come in and help make that, you take that off their plate so they can focus on their more strategic things. So that endpoint management, MSP, is a big thing. And really ROI where automation can take place. And oftentimes that involves AI or data, certainly is a pretty big thing. In fact, I've got one customer right now that's trying to figure out how to IoT enable all of their devices in their retail stores. They have a kitchen, they've got cash registers, they've got signage, they've got self-service kiosks, they've got all kinds of things, and really moving away from that reactive, maintenance support thing to more of a predictive, real-time, is it up, is it not type of thing. So, and it can be a challenge.
Yeah, and there was a few different use cases I heard there, and the labor one, maybe we could dive into that one a little bit, Brandon. What are some of the use cases you're seeing to optimize the workforce and labor in different industries to where they're actually starting to see that ROI through AI?
Well, I mean, we've all seen it. When's the last time you went to the movie theater and you bought a ticket from a person? Like, right, self-service kiosk there. Look at McDonald's, fast food, convenience stores. They're starting to get very much, mobile menus, mobile ordering, mobile checkout, self-service checkout. So that's absolutely impacting, the labor force. But I think it's also taking some of those mundane roles and maybe making it so you don't have to do those, right? And having a better customer experience. So that, and then there's all the other things around, employee optimization, stocking, replenishment. We're seeing a couple of projects where you've got cameras watching shelves for planogram, adherence as well as stocking, so that product availability is there. And that bleeds all the way into inventory management and warehouse management. So oftentimes these data systems, these data platforms can bridge well internal, to the back of the house side instead of just front of the house. And all the other things, right? Just think about food service, stocking, replenishment, forecasting, even a big one right now that's affecting where they even put stores. Real estate teams are now using, instead of just the common data set around persona mapping and the type of people and income, to events and traffic patterns. And, you go down the list, there might be 10 or 12 data points that are now being aggregated into an AI model just to help with the selection of where to put things and how to optimize it.
I would think too, like a couple other use cases I'm seeing, the concept of, like, in the kind of retail restaurant type space around line busting has been around for a while. Like, it started off with like a mobile device and someone walking around and being able to, like a Nordstrom rack, you go there and they'll line bust you with people, with associates walking around with devices to say, I can check you out right here if you're checking out with a card, right? We're starting to see too, though, we're in a couple discussions with some restaurant / retail type clients where they're focusing on like line predictability, like predicting what the orders could be coming in, because ultimately their job is to get you through the line as fast as possible, because that obviously improves your experience, your customer experience. I had a really poor example of that actually at an experience I had at the airport just recently, and I won't name any names, but it was a really, I remember sitting there going, I should be calling this customer right now to help them with this line busting.
I have a feeling I know who it is, and I already tried.
Okay, did you really? Okay, yeah, but it's this like predictability. You'll see, like, leveraging, a lot of companies now are moving towards this like edge almost kind of where you become the QR code, and they're understanding what you want to order based on history and trending. And so if they can have that ready for you, it busts that line faster. And so we're seeing that, really optimizing even some retail, right, optimizing the customer through the line. Now, in some retail, they don't want you leaving the line fast. They want you in the store longer, right? So that may be prohibitive for them to go that path, but in some cases, it's advantageous for them.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, customer experience is one of the first things that I think you hit on, Eric, is one of the use cases, and customer journey being something that's interesting to a lot of retailers, where from when they pull up to the parking lot, for where they go when they come into the store, to are they run into the restroom? Are the restrooms clean? Like how can you kind of map the customer's experience when they go to the store? Is it super busy? Is it not quite so busy? When's the best time for people to go? There's all these different analytics you can get that drive up that client experience or customer experience when they come into the place.
I think the key, Mike, really the key is what Brandon talked about is IoT enabling like devices and sensors and things in the stores. That creates a tremendous amount of data that's now unstructured, and now you've got to structure that data that can go make better decisions for the business, right? But it's, at the edge, you're seeing a lot of that, because in order to get to those smart decisions, you have to understand what the data is telling you, and you have to have the data. So a lot of like legacy retailers aren't IoT enabling these devices. It's hard to get data. It becomes very almost like survey based versus actual real time data. And so it's really important that a key part of what you're doing from a retail perspective to be able to leverage AI is you have to have data sources. That's really, really important.
Well, and further, you have to have edge compute, right? You don't want to have to send all that to the cloud or process it in a data center somewhere. So this whole notion of having the infrastructure being ready to support a retail platform that can do customer journey, that can do line busting and queuing, that can do food replenishment. And, you go down the list, the idea is you have this edge capability, typically involves GPU if you actually are doing data science with some type of intense video analytics, perhaps. But, so there's a lot here to be designed and implemented as a precursor to having actual AI at the edge, unless you're just doing a one-off solution or a piece, right? So to your point, queuing is a big one. We actually had one project this last year where we had anonymous video analytics watching the queue. And we were learning, okay, what's the percentage that use self-service versus assisted? What is the timeline? What does it take? What about items? You're seeing even as an assisted checkout capability coming out now, where you place items down on the counter and the register kind of pre-populates them. You've seen those probably at the airport or other places. But, we even learned one time, because we were watching, there was a security guard that kept talking to the point of sale employee, and that was causing a delay in the customer. But we were able to measure it and provide feedback, and now that's fixed. But it gets really interesting once you start to operationalize a real-time view of data and how things are working in your stores, and to be able to give that to management and others that can help train it. And I guess lastly, I would say safety is a big item right now, with loitering, with people shrink and slip and fall detection, having that real-time analytics. We actually have a couple of projects where we're able to tap into the security cameras in a retail store and use that as a split feed into an AI model, so that you don't have to actually install much more than what you already may have, depending on the coverage you need. So, leveraging the types of devices that you have now can be a really great input into developing these type of real world, meaningful, ROI-driven analytics.
Yeah, so I mean, that's probably good news for folks out there who already have these systems in place and can reuse that existing infrastructure they have and integrate into these systems. Do you have something to add to that, Eric?
No, I was just going to say, and this is the fascinating thing about AI, is that you learn, it's not limitless, but I just learned the fact that AI can solve for obnoxious flirting in the store, right? That's being able to solve for that. That's fascinating. What a use case, right? So it's crazy. But that proves the point. The use cases become so, as you start to dig in deeper, what the data will share with you. The data is king. queen.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of the healthcare customer that we helped with their length of stay being predictive. It went from 7 or 8 days down to 3 after you looked at the data, and the reason why that was able to be adjusted, you would not intuit it, right? It was totally a data science initiative. I think it was whether or not they checked in with the driver's license or not.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, that's not retail, but it's indicative of a data-driven outcome that you would not.
Oh yeah. I mean, that transcends all industries. I mean, that makes sense in retail too. I mean, you were talking about gyms early on. Like you could actually see how many people are in the gym today, maybe how many personal instructors you need to come into the gym to support those clients, or it could be gas station, how many folks you haven't come in certain times of year, how you want to staff it, right? Or even predictive maintenance, cleaning bathrooms or restocking the shelves, to your point earlier. So you hit on some of the edge requirements and why we might consider putting devices closer to the edge to do all this real-time processing. Video analytics was one of that. What are some other considerations that someone looking to go down the edge AI journey, use all their IoT sensors, start aggregating this data? What are some things that they should start thinking about, and why things should be moving closer to the edge versus in the data center or in the cloud?
I mean, my perspective is that, look, there should be a very solid business case, an ROI or an outcome that is going to be meaningful, right? One use case might be, hey, our food, we have compliance. It's in the refrigerator. There's some cold chain of custody that we have to measure. We have to make sure that the food is fresh and that it's not out, so it could be some compliance ROI that saves a big manual process, or it could be, customer experience. At the end of the day, I think you start with the problems, the ROI that's there, and then talk about the opportunity space. I think we've been doing it long enough now. We can start to see some trends. Like if someone brings us in, we'll be able to maybe say, hey, these are the 3 or 4 things that we're seeing across multiple places, right?
Right.
And so I think that's usually the best place to start. And then all the dependencies come with what outcome you're trying to drive, whether it's a small little edge Arduino that isn't that expensive, you put on an oven just so that you can gather the temperature and telemetry, or whether it's something more involved, like a big video, CPU driven or GPU driven video analytics process.
Yeah. And I mean, when we're putting these devices out in environments right at the edge, what are some of the things that our customers are thinking about, or what we're talking to them about from security perspectives, access perspectives, environmentals? What's kind of top of mind, or what do we talk to our clients about when they're thinking about deploying these type solutions?
Yeah, I think so. I'll start off on that one. So the interesting thing about AI type edge solutions is that it can kind of become this tip of the arrow type conversation. And you open yourself up to, you definitely open yourself. You've got to consider the plumbing behind it. Like you really have to, like that. In fact, that becomes, it's actually the table stakes. You've got to that has to be dialed in, because you're right. Like there's bad actors out there from a security perspective. There's ways to, I mean, security is such a huge topic in infiltrating the environment. There's also like privacy things you have to consider. Who has access to what data? I mean, you start to get into some of these areas where, it becomes more kind of almost like a minority report store, where they walk in and, how does this computer know my name and know that I bought jeans last week? Right? That can become a challenge. And so you've got to take all of those things into consideration. And so like when we typically engage with our clients on solutions like this, as much as I know they want to talk about like the art of the possible with the edge and what's possible around AI, like we have to go through the due diligence. You have to go through the due diligence of looking at the plumbing. It has to be dialed in from a infrastructure, from a security perspective, because if not, you can pull as much data as you want, but if that's exposed or it's in the wrong hands, you set yourself up for something you don't want.
Yeah. Right.
And the other thing too is be sure, like if I were in charge of the project at a company like this, right, I would ensure that you look at it as a platform approach, not a one-off, and try to make sure you can design or architect your digital destiny, right? You don't want to farm it out to this company and have them do the ovens and these guys are the coffee machines. It should be a holistically managed platform that you can then manage and orchestrate. And that comes with some forethought ahead of times, right? And it does involve physical security. It does involve thinking of how to support the current use cases and scale. It does involve, all the things you care about. Typically in the room, you'll find your IT department, your store ops and business, your leadership, probably someone that can bridge, on the customer side across the pillars from leadership. And so these store initiative projects usually are pretty involved, but once you get them in and can start to show how a platform can really improve the business, not only the customer experience in the front of the house, but the back of the house operations, all the way from supply and fulfillment, it can be a pretty powerful thing. But it does take vision, and it's not always easy.
And I think what Brandon talked about too is really, really important. A couple statements ago, where we've seen successful projects in this space, in the retail space, is when it's been anchored by a really clear business outcome the client's trying to solve for. It's not just a pet project of like, hey, let's just go do some edge or IoT or an AI just because everyone's talking about it. But it's actually being driven from, whether it's being driven from customer success, or it's being driven from human resources, or it's being driven from, maybe the client has an initiative around power savings and eco, and so they want to start making, doing some smart enabled devices and understand like when clients, so we, where customers go through the store, and should we have lights on and off all the time? Like it's all about like, it has to be anchored by an outcome. And so when we're talking to our clients, and often in this conversations, we typically talk to a lot of IT people, right, in our business. We've done that for years. We're seeing now a big shift to talking the line of business in our customers. But if we are talking to IT, what's one of the first things we're always asking is, because it's important, is what is the outcome? And we want to have a conversation with that person that's requesting that outcome, because that helps us understand really what do they want to accomplish, and then help them truly understand what the art of the possible is. Because once you start going down that path, you always start to iterate on top of that over the years to come.
Yeah. And usually, Eric, I mean, these projects should pay for themselves in terms of outcome and savings or operational efficiencies or cross-sell, upsell, because you have new capability and suddenly you've got hot dogs on the rollers and you've got products for people to buy on the spot that they want to buy them. So, I mean, that's the approach. It has to be, positive ROI.
Right. So find those outcomes, whether it's improving customer experience, whether it's growing revenue, whether it's being more sustainable, figure out the use cases that you really want to focus on. Sounds like we do some envisioning with our clients to help them develop those. And I know we have tons of stories out there that we can share if folks are interested, out on solutions.insight.com. So definitely go check some of those stories out. But once you get those use cases, figuring out where those workloads are going to live, right? Is it going to be at the edge? Is it going to be in your data center? Will it be in the hyperscalers? Another important factor. Management sounds like something that you need to consider. No one likes introducing additional complexity into the environment. Even when there is ROI, we may be pulling ROI from here to just make operations a nightmare. And I mean, sounds like use cases are bountiful, and depending on which area of retail you're in, many could apply, different ones could apply. Any final thoughts you want to leave the folks with that are listening in today, where to get started, or just food for thought as they're starting to go down this journey? And then we can go ahead and wrap everything up. Yeah,
Brandon, I'll go first and you can take us home. I think really an important piece of this is you're going down this journey around use case and AI, and where do you want to start, or where are you at currently and how you want to accelerate it. I think that's probably, we're seeing a lot of that in the industry as this acceleration is building that center of excellence. Like that's really important, is going through the due diligence of building that center of excellence. Because then once you have that in place, you can really start to accelerate the realization of these use cases. But that's some of the stuff, Mike, you just talked about, like around infrastructure, around security, like just making sure, all those things are dialed in. And then, so going through that due diligence is really important. And then you start to accelerate that. But really, I'm actually really excited about the industry in which we're in right now. This is really AI data, and this is the new currency. I mean, this really is like, the last time I think I had this, there was this much excitement about some piece of technology was, I think, virtualization back. Like, I mean, that's like kind of changed. This is fundamentally changing like customers and ourselves and our environment and our world. It's fundamentally changing our world. And so to be able to be a part of that in this industry from a solutioning, an SI perspective, but also to be a part of that in IT and working at companies is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So I'm just really excited about the opportunity we have to be with our clients, helping them solve these outcomes. I think it's I'm really looking forward to now in the at least next decade as we're going through this journey together.
Yep. And
Yeah,
it's accelerating, right? All of these things that are data driven, once you get it into a data platform, it accelerates. So it's a good place to be and a fun place to be. I guess I'll just say, reach out and just ask a question. We're here. If anyone on the line here has any questions or they wonder where to go, we'll tell you, what's working elsewhere and maybe what to avoid to save you some pain. There's some really cool stuff. I know this title of this session was for AI. We talked about a lot of core infrastructure, non-AI things, which is, you have to have that to be able to get to the AI like we talked about. But once you get there, there's some pretty amazing outcomes and even some very forward-looking things like, our immersive technology team. They've got the ability to create your store using, you ingest the CAD file, you put it into 3D space. You can actually have an AI digital avatar, a person, employee, or a customer, simulate what it's like for training. Imagine putting on one of the new MetaQuests and actually doing your training via a VR session and having it be interactive, just like OpenAI can remember the session that you've been having, and it can answer questions. Well, you can train an AI model to train your store, your culture, your process in VR in one of your virtual stores. And that's actually not that bad to do nowadays. We've got some of those pipelines already built. That's an example of AI and how that's going to transform your operations and training, right? As well as there's some companies now that are doing the same workflow. They pull in the CAD file and they can visualize their store. And as they design a store and figure out how to integrate technology and experience into more traditional stores, you can do that in VR now too and do a virtual walkthrough. And unlike having to do expensive construction and materials, you literally just, place a 3D asset in a different spot, and you can now pre-visualize what that's going to be. So really all aspects of business can be improved, influenced, and changed by the use of this technology. So whatever your use case is, whatever your challenges are, whatever your dreams are, that's why I'm here at Insight, because we want to go build stuff at scale and make those dreams a reality. It's nothing's impossible. We just need to know what you need, and we're here for you.
I love it. Perfect, guys. Yeah. So if you find yourself asking, I really wish I could do X for that business outcome with my data and getting your data in order. I mean, this is the time, like you said, AI's competitive advantage. You should be dipping your toe in now, kicking the tires, figuring out what those use cases are, get it in the lab so you can test things out. But this was great, guys. Really appreciate your thought leadership for the time that you spent here today. And if there are any questions or follow-up, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll follow up with you, or head on over to solutions.insight.com to find out more. So thanks, gentlemen. Have a great rest of the day, and thank you all for joining.
See ya.
Thanks.